So this is Grace in 2006. Grace played with Legos, Power Rangers. She had never owned a Barbie. And she wanted desperately to be treated just like the boys she played with every recess. But there's one thing she wanted most in the world, which was a boy's haircut, one just like her dad's. When she finally got her dream haircut in the 3rd grade, her classmates were not as enthusiastic as she was. She experienced brutal beatings in hallways, verbal taunting in and out of the classroom. One moment that stuck out specifically in her mind is this moment where a boy maybe a year older than her comes up to her in the hallway, corners her and says, "Are you a boy or are you a girl? And you're gonna tell me this time or else I'm going to the principal." Grace was terrified. She didn't know what to say because saying that she was a girl felt like a lie, but saying that she was a boy would have gotten her in trouble with somebody. Fast forward a year and Grace doesn't cut her hair again. She switched, sorry. She doesn't cut her hair again. She began wearing gender-neutral clothing because it made her feel safer than the men's clothing, but more comfortable than the girls' clothing. Her hair would oftentimes be matted because looking in the mirror became too painful of an experience. She wanted to blend into walls, not be noticed by those around her. The raw anger and anxiety that came with all these problems became too much. They transformed themselves into suicidal thoughts, and upon expressing these, she began therapy. After 16 long years of abuse from school from peers and staff, Grace's parents had enough, and they switched her to a new high school called Harbor City International School. This new school gave her a fresh start. She began to thrive in ways academically unseen of her before. She commanded respect in the room. She was outspoken, outgoing, but there's a significant change in her life. She cut her hair again. She was given the opportunity to be herself and be herself in ways that she had never seen before. She began wearing men's clothing again, and in the fall of 2016, she attended Augsburg University studying film and history. She was given opportunities. Many trans people don't have these. In the spring of her freshman year, after talks with their parents, she began transitioning, taking testosterone by injection once every week. She felt happy. She felt like the man she always was. Grace changed her name to Grant and began using he pronouns. He made instrumental changes in his life and began to feel what true self-love really felt like. He began feeling like a man. But there's something that his community gave him that not many trans people have either. A chance to be surrounded by unfettered love and compassion, something that so many people need and we thrive on as people. So, in case you haven't picked up on it by now, I'm Grant. I'm the cute kid in the pictures, still as cute as ever. Thank you. So, I'm the man I am today, though, because of my loving friends and family. Many of them are here tonight. Thank you for coming. As if you had a choice. However, many trans people aren't as lucky to have the support network that I have had. 3% of Minnesota teens identify as transgender or gender nonconforming, and nearly 2/3 of them have reported attempting suicide at some point in their lives. Now, lack of acceptance by family and community plays an enormous role in this statistic, but something else does as well: validation of name and appearance. Several weeks ago, I had the misfortune of slipping on ice at my university's campus, and I smashed my head into concrete. After a day of headaches and general stubbornness, my friend Sonia brought me to the ER where I was sitting in the waiting room, and this doctor comes out and she's looking down her clipboard and she shouts, "Grace?" into this nearly empty waiting room, craning her neck to try and see who it could possibly be. And I froze up. I hadn't heard anyone call me Grace in months. I panicked completely. I didn't know what to say. Shuts again, "Grace." Sonia nudged me on the arm and I eventually shout back, "Last name?" And she shouts back, "Berg?" And I scuttle over to her and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Grant, actually. It says Grace on the sheet, but I'm Grant Berg. I'm Grant Berg. I'm transgender. Hi, I'm Grant Berg." And I did this multiple times until she finally whisked me to the back room. She diagnosed me with a concussion. It's fine. I was a lot smarter before this talk, trust me. And it was only later, because I just tried to block this out, but Sonia told me, "You don't have to take this. That's not okay. And you're Grant." The reason this is so important to be conscious about is that many trans people who are dead named and misgendered, which is being called by your previous name and pronouns, they have on a consistent basis a higher chance of suicide, consistently. And this isn't somebody just changing their name on a whim. This is somebody making a change that will impact the rest of their lives. They think so carefully about this name, about this immense change in the world, just as many as you do when you name your own children. This instance, though, is made less awkward by the fact that I look like a dude. Many of you seeing me strut around here have probably thought, that's a handsome guy. I blend in really well to a crowd. I look just like a normal person, but not many trans people fit into these social boxes like I do. They're asked humiliating questions and forced to really justify their own existence to people they've never met or barely know. One of my favorite questions that my friends and I are typically asked are, somebody leans in real close to us, and they look at us and they go, have you had the surgery yet? What surgery? I haven't had any. But there's something else that's happening. There's something else that's more detrimental that's happening to trans youth. Trans kids, from what I can see, are valuing themselves entirely by how others perceive them to be, by how well they fit in these social boxes. And when they don't, they're brutalized in classrooms and in and out of classrooms because of it. They only appreciate themselves when they fit into like the cisgender norm, the hair, the clothes, the facial features, the walk and talk, everything. And there's something else that happens though too. Cisgender people will look at them and say, well, at least you look handsome for a trans person. You don't look trans. But these compliments weigh heavy on recipients. I oftentimes found myself hearing these compliments and thinking, you're right, I am handsome for a trans person, but not handsome for a cis guy. These compliments need to be replaced with things like, you look handsome today, or I love your heels, rather than these backhanded compliments that weigh just so heavily on trans people every day. But we live in a country today where these kinds of things are commonplace. We don't think about respect. We are losing ground in trans rights to harmful organizations like Focus on the Family, which directly hurt trans and other queer children through brutalistic comments, hate crimes, and other terrible things that we see in everyday society. We are finally feeling small victories, too, before the Trump administration took charge. Small victories like the ability to use the bathrooms of our choice without having to worry if somebody's going to be in there to hurt us, or the ability to openly serve in the military. We've also seen a complete disregard for the issue of conversion therapy in our own state. Now, conversion therapy is the practice of trying to change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity from gay to straight or trans to cisgender. This is done by using electroshock therapy, emotional abuse, and other forms of extremely harmful medical practices. And these kids that go through conversion therapy have an extremely high rate of suicide. They don't see love and compassion around them anymore, and they inevitably end up killing themselves. It's horrifying what it can do to a person. It just sucks the life right out of them. I've had to look several conversion therapy people in the eye. And how anyone can do that to another person is horrifying to me. But we've seen a complete lack of action on this issue in our own state. For example, the Minnesota State Legislature recently introduced a bill called the Protection from Conversion Therapy Act, which would protect children and vulnerable adults from conversion therapy in our own state. It would also stop any form of medical assistance coverage for conversion therapy. However, Minnesota House Republicans refused to hold a hearing on the bill, rendering it dead until next year and allowing the continuous torture of trans and other queer children in our state. Minnesota is one of the most LGBT-friendly states, but we still have so much work to do. Every day, there's some other kid committing suicide because they weren't accepted by their family or their community. We need to embrace and uplift these queer communities over and over again, because if we don't, I can't imagine a world without queer children, I suppose, but I don't want to be an activist for the rest of my life. I really don't like having to stand up here and lecture a hall full of people on why I should exist. I don't. And I don't want that future for my kids. I don't want the future for the rest of the queer community that I'm part of. I do this because one day I want to feel safer in my community. I want to be able to walk down the street without worrying if somebody's going to decide that I look too queer to exist anymore. It's up to you as Minnesotans and as Americans. I'm pleading with you to please call your state representative, demand action on conversion therapy, and demand action on queer issues in your own state. Because without it, people like me die. We die every day. So I'm having top surgery in a month, one of the many surgeries I can have as a trans person. This is a surgery where the breast tissue that I have will be removed from my chest and given a more masculine appearance. I'll finally look like a dude, chest-wise at least. And my doctor the other day said something to me that I'll never be able to forget. She's been working with trans people for probably about the last 50 years. And she said, I've never been able to understand you people. I've never been able to understand. But I believe you 100%. And sometimes this is all it takes. Thank you.